So my name is John Comrie. I am originally from Canada. I've lived all over the world, really, and I now live in the mountains of northern New Mexico. My little toe was curling under the toe next to it. It has been doing that for a long time. It had got to the point where I was effectively stepping on it, and it was very painful to walk. And so I'm 76 years old. I've been sort of a competitive athlete when I was young and work out several days a week at a CrossFit gym, and I hike and walk golf courses and ski, and I was here teaching skiing. All of those activities were made impossible by this problem, and I realized, like I think it happens to a lot of people, I had been taking my feet for granted, and I didn't realize how debilitating this just tiny little thing on my little toe could be. And I kept thinking to myself, well, worst case, maybe they could just cut it off. The town where I live, there are 2 or 3 podiatrists' office. So I have seen one of them here a few times in the past, and I saw him about this. He put a kind of plastic insert over top of the whole toe, which kind of separated it from the toe next to it, but it didn't work very well. On my own, I then started playing around with various devices you can buy online, toe separators, and I found one that actually worked not bad, but then it was a bit uncomfortable to walk. I could walk around the house without pain, but most of my shoes it didn't fit in. And I came to realize that this really wasn't a long-term solution. And I started going online to see what you could do about this condition. I then, after a bit of research, discovered that there was this process of minimally invasive surgery that the more I read about it, struck me as a really important thing for me to do, because again, although I'm very active, at my age, my circulation isn't what it was when I was younger. The first doctor I saw had said that you could do an operation. He had never talked about minimally invasive surgery. I couldn't find anyone in New Mexico who did it. I then found several doctors in the country, really, who do this process, and I started looking for people who were closer to New Mexico. And I found several, but I was most impressed with Dr. Foster's sort of website, and I was quite impressed with sort of what I could read about Dr. Foster. I liked the fact that he was active in a professional association for minimally invasive surgery, and so with all of that, I phoned the office and asked. I lived about a 12-hour drive away. One of the first very impressive things that happened was that he phoned me back himself after having a very interesting discussion with him, where he seemed quite willing to talk to me as long as I had questions. So I had arranged to drive. I think I left on a Tuesday, and I stayed overnight in Colorado Springs, and I thought I'd have a reasonably easy drive on Wednesday from Colorado Springs into Kansas City. And I set out to get there, and it's a long story, but I spent about 12 hours out on the freeway and never got more than about 70 miles away from Colorado or from Denver. Throughout this time, I was communicating with your office and describing what had happened, and they kept saying, well, don't worry, if you can get here tomorrow, we'll figure out a way to look after you. So that was comforting. So I got up Thursday morning. I didn't get to the office till about 4:30, and most offices would be on the verge of closing when I got there. So I walked in, the doctor came and looked at my foot, and we had a discussion about what the options were. So then, now it's 5:30, 5:45, and he looked at me and said, well, do you want to do this now? And I said, well, look, it's 4 to 6. You do whatever works for you. And he said, well, we might as well do it now. And in a process that was all beginning to end, I don't think was more than 30 minutes, 10 of which was waiting for a local anesthesia to take effect. And they did this quite amazing surgery that is like a pinprick. You can see videos of it online, but it's sort of a couple of pinpricks in the side of your toe. I didn't feel anything, completely painless. And then when it was over, he wrapped it up in the bandage, and we had just agreed that I would come back on Friday morning and he would show me how to replace the bandage. And the bandage had to be done in a certain way so that it would keep the toe straight. It was now straight because a tendon had been released. So I came back, I learned a little bit about how to do that. It was quite simple. By Friday noon, I was on the road back home, and I've never had really an issue since. I never had any pain, I never had any sensation, but it's healed, so the toe is straight, and I have done most everything that I could do to test it out, and I haven't had any. It feels like perfectly normal foot again. You know, I do have pretty high-end insurance. I travel a lot, and I pay for the best supplement I can get. It covers everything, and I'm used to being insured for most things that I have done. And to be honest, I said this to the doctor, and the week previous I had a root canal done in Albuquerque that cost $2,000, and this procedure, the total cost from beginning to end was, I think, maybe under $800, and that included a walking boot, and the cost I didn't think was very reasonable compared to, you know, how much it costs to get your car repaired or any number of other things you might compare it to. And this really made a huge difference in my life. You know, in the continuum of quality of service that you can get from a medical professional and from a doctor's office, I've had pretty much every kind of level of quality along the continuum, and I can say without qualification, this was one of the best experiences I've ever had in a doctor's office. That, apart from the professionalism of the work that was done, he's just an extremely easy man to talk to. It really, at the point, if I ever needed any kind of serious work done on my feet, I'd probably go back to Dr. Foster, even though it's a 12 or 14 hour drive.